Hey everybody, welcome to Inside the Album with Don and Tommy. I'm Don Seckler.
That would make me Tommy. All right.
And here we are. We're here with our podcast about classic rock albums and the writing of the songs on those albums and the recording of those albums. So we'd like to go in and tell you the stories of what was going on with the band at the time when they recorded some of our favorite albums.
Yeah, it's a great album today, for sure.
Yeah, so
Yep.
today we're going to dive into the debut album from the Cars, which is called The Cars.
Nice.
And it goes back to 1978. So June 6th, 1978, this one was released.
I know it well.
Yeah, I think everybody our age pretty much knows this entire album by heart because it had like hit after hit after hit and songs that just there's seven songs on this album that were played continuously on the radio in the late 70s. So if we take a look back at what was going on at the time, we had on the charts this year in 1978, there was Parallel Lines by Blondie.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that because it's a little bit relevant in terms of who the Cars kind of became and who they were and the type of music they played. Had Darkness on the Edge of Town by Bruce Springsteen, another classic but straight ahead rock. Comes a Time by Neil Young, another great album. And then also Some Girls by the Rolling Stones, which was, one of our favorites and one of the grittiest Stones albums out there.
Great album.
Yeah. So this band is probably, I guess people are fairly familiar with at least three of the guys in the band, the guys who, were the singers. They actually, had a bunch of different guys singing in this band. So you have Ric Ocasek, who is the main singer and also played guitar. You have Elliot Easton, who was the lead guitarist and did some backing vocals. Benjamin Orr was a singer as well and also played bass. And then on drums, you've got David Robinson, and on keyboards and saxophone and, a bunch of other weird stuff, you have Greg Hawkes. So the lineup hadn't changed much over the years, and the Cars kind of like, I think they were kind of like a meteor. Like they had like 4 or 5 albums, right, that did really great, were huge hits and radio play, and then they just disappeared. And I think they broke up, and I think fairly soon after that, I think Ric Ocasek got sick. But a couple of them, I think Benjamin Orr may have also passed away as well. So I think a couple of those guys are now passed away.
Oh, yeah. Benjamin Orr and Ric Ocasek both have gone.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they were kind of it wasn't a super short period of time, but it was like they were there and then gone. It wasn't like the Rolling Stones where they had all these different kind of stages of their career where they've got different albums, different styles, things like that. They kind of were like a meteorite, like just burning up in the atmosphere, I think, and had a big impact, but a very short impact, I think, in terms of years.
Oh, they were huge, man. I mean, forget about it. And Ocasek, he pretty much left and started producing albums for other people.
Uh-huh.
He went into the back end of the music. I think that had a big part of it, that he was done playing, he was done writing music, but he was like, we'll talk about it a little bit. He was like a super genius behind the scenes on how to put music together, which is kind of obvious when you look at all the Cars albums, man.
Yeah.
They really did know how to make music.
They were really good, Rick especially, at writing catchy tunes, and that's what it comes down to. And we'll see that some of the stories in here. We'll talk about that.
Perfect.
So this album peaked at number 18 on the U.S. Billboard 200 album chart and has been certified 6 times platinum. So that's over 6 million copies sold. And Rolling Stone ranked the Cars at number 282 on its 2003 list of the 500 greatest albums of all time.
Wow.
So we'll show the cover here. It's basically a pretty girl, bright red lipstick, holding on to a translucent steering wheel. And the interesting thing about this was it was not the cover that the band wanted at all. First album was actually designed by the record company rather than the people in the band. So the drummer Robinson, David Robinson, did a lot of kind of design work and things like that. And he had designed a very different album cover that cost about $80 to design. He said, he said, I remember the price exactly. It was completely finished and everything, but it was a little more bizarre than the cover they had in mind. So they changed some of it because of copyright problems and put it as the inner sleeve. But I think there was way more how we envisioned who we were. That cover was way more what they envisioned the band like at the time. So, you know, they saw this cover from the record company and they were like, oh, that's very kind of slick. And, you know, here we are at the end of the 70s and stuff it's getting a little edgy, right? At the end of the 70s, this is kind of as disco's dying out and you're getting a lot more, you know, the punk music has been around a little bit and you're getting stuff that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But, you know, the band really didn't like the cover at all, which is interesting. But it, you know, people kind of loved it. It's you know, it's a very familiar cover if you grew up in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, they might not like it, but you know, it really is. It's an iconic cover. You know, that's how it turns out, right? It's like everybody had that in their album collection. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so this one was their first album. The band was formed in Boston in 1976. All the guys had been in and out of multiple bands throughout the 70s. And after becoming a club staple, the band recorded a number of demos in early 1977. And some of those songs later appeared in completed form on this album, including Just What I Needed and My Best Friend's Girl.
Yep. Think about that, what you said, right? They got together and in 2 years they skyrocketed. Within 2 years, right?
Yeah. So the demos for this actually got airplay in Boston. Yep. And so, you know, that gave the band kind of a running start, which was good.
You know, you were talking about the music starting to change and what we went through. Like, you know, you had your classic rock. Then we had our punk. And, you know, I was surprised in, you know, thinking about the Cars that they consider them a new wave, right? But I'm like, you know, I never thought of them as new wave, like, you know, B-52s and Elvis Costello.
I think it was more because of the electronics that they used. The songs are pretty poppy.
Very poppy.
It's not like, they weren't like B-52s or Devo.
Right.
Which was just weird. Okay. So, you know, and B-52s had some popular songs, obviously, Love Shack, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But if you dive deep into the B-52s earlier records, you're going to see a lot of kind of interesting and avant-garde type stuff. And I think that's how the Cars originally thought of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they thought of themselves as an artsy band who could make some catchy tunes, you know?
Well, they certainly were a Nazi band, and they did write some catchy tunes for sure.
Yeah. So when they first were coming together, or when they were talking about, you know, getting a record contract, they had two companies, Arista and Elektra, both tried to sign the band. But in the end, the band chose Elektra because they had a lack of new wave acts. So again, this was like the new thing back then. So you had all these bands coming out kind of doing a similar thing with synthesizers and a lot of kind of like robotic sounds, for lack of a better, you know, word. And so, you know, they said, well, these guys here, Elektra just has the Eagles and Jackson Browne. And so here we're going to stand out versus at Arista, where they kind of felt like they would have more blended in with the other new wave bands of the time.
Wow. The Eagles and Jackson. Yeah, that's a big difference. Big change there.
Yeah.
Good idea, really, when you think about it, right?
Right. It's smart. I think it's you know, really pretty smart idea, actually.
And as we always say, back in those days, man, getting the record company to push you and get you out there and get you airplay. It's what it was all
Yeah,
about.
yeah, it was so much
Album.
different. Now
Yeah.
these days the kids are out there doing it all on their own. They don't have record companies really, a lot of them, and they're just out there
Record
playing and
companies.
recording and releasing stuff on SoundCloud and all over the place. So,
Dude, my buddy just opened up a record company where AI is making the records.
oh yeah, I've read about those AI songs. Yeah,
Yeah, AI
it's
songs. And,
crazy.
oh, shoot me.
Some of them are pretty bad, by the way. I don't know
Yeah,
if you had a
I
chance
get
to
it,
listen
but
to
it's
them,
just,
but
you know what? It takes away from what you and I would say. And then listen, I don't want to sound like the old guy, but the creativity of a band getting together, the energy of people in the same room.
yeah,
When you want now, we get the clay. I'll just real quick. I just went to see the making of Led Zeppelin. And it was a 2-hour documentary on their
right,
first two albums.
right.
And watching how these guys came together and the talent and the energy and the brain waves they would send into each other was just phenomenal. So
Oh
just
yeah,
let's hope that never goes away.
yeah. No, of course. Um, so if we look at the Cars, musically they were described a lot of different ways. As people called them new wave, power pop, synth rock. Um, it was all due to a lot of technology that they had on their tracks. And that's all kind of because of the band loved new stuff. They loved to go to the music store and buy the latest stuff, no matter what it was. They just want to, they'd said they'd buy stuff in the store, even if they thought it would be obsolete in 2 months because it was so different.
No,
Yeah, so you'd say one of the guys in the band said it got to the point where I'd had 10 or 12 foot switches to hit during a really short set of just a few songs because I got so many pedals and stuff, right?
yeah. Taking it to the extreme.
Yeah, so when the
But
album,
they found something.
yeah, it definitely worked for them.
Yeah.
So when the album was released in June of 1978, this is interesting. The number one song in America was "You're the One That I Want" from Grease,
There
which,
you
by the
go.
way, I do love. I love that
Good.
song.
It's great stuff.
And then also number two was "Shadow Dancing" by Andy Gibb. So
Andy Gibb.
yeah, so you got the Grease soundtrack, and then the little BG brother as number two with "Shadow Dancing." So when this came out and did well, it was completely different than a lot of the stuff out there. Is kind of my point. I think that it really was unique at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll throw it in there. I think I saw him either 79, somewhere around there. I saw him in the garden.
Yeah,
And I'll just throw it in before the music starts. It was a feel good concert, man. It was a lot of fun. I can remember, people were up and dancing. It was just that kind of music, from start to finish. Great, great stuff.
all right, so let's jump right into the album here. The number one and
Yeah.
the first three songs off this album. It's an insane first three. It's so good. So
So good.
it starts off with "Good Times Roll."
Mm.
Let the good times roll. Let them knock you around. Let the good times roll. Let them make you a clown. Let them leave you up in
So, again, enormous hit song from the late 70s, early 80s. And to me, there's not a lot to it. It's a pretty basic little riff,
Funny.
right? With
Funny
not
like
a
this.
lot of, you forget about the lack of instruments, right? I mean, they come in eventually, but at the
Yeah.
beginning, it's very kind of sparse.
I was thinking the same thing. It's quite simple. Good lyrics, good harmonies.
Yeah.
So
So this one was released as the third single from the album in 1979, charted at number 41 in the United States. And Rick Ocasek said he wrote the song as a sarcastic commentary on the good times in rock music, saying that was my song about what the good times in rock and roll really mean instead of what they're supposed to be. It was kind of a parody of good times, really. It was not about good times at all. So
I don't know. He always seemed, in all the things I've ever, he always seemed a little cranky, Rick. Okay.
yeah, right?
He had a
right?
little cranky side. Yeah.
He's artistic, but also I think you're right. It is a little
He
bit
had
of
an edge.
crankiness. Yeah.
Yep.
He's a little grumpy, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I like it because it gives it's a little spark, a little edge. The song is not about good times, but he's saying let the good times roll.
And as we see when we go along, they took turns sharing lead vocals, Ocasek
Yeah.
and Benjamin Orr. And they both have two different voices, which is pretty awesome because it really works out for them.
Yeah.
They really had two lead singers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So when they were recording this album, the producer, who was Roy Thomas Baker, he layered on a lot of harmonies.
Yep.
So when Rick heard it, he said to Roy, he said, I think that's way too much. But he said it grew on him and it sounded so smooth that it was a nice process to do because Roy was fortunate enough to have a 40-track machine, which I think was fairly rare back then. I don't think they were up to that many tracks. So he could do a lot of layering. And I could see where you record something and then you hear it with 40 versions of your voice on there, right?
Oh, it's crazy. And you got to realize around this time, too, Queen was peaking, as popularity. And, they were literally the king of harmonies.
Yeah.
A lot of that probably had in the back of their minds, what's hot right now, what's going on out there. The harmonies were huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. Definitely a big, I mean, the sound that Queen got were so different than this, but you definitely hear, you could definitely see how that could influence them.
Oh, yeah. How do you make it to the radio?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's take a listen to track number 2. This is My Best Friend's Girl.
Always dancing down the street with your sway blue eyes. Every new boy that you meet, he doesn't know the real surprise. Here she comes again when she's dancing beneath the starry sky. Oh, she'll make you feel. Here she comes again when she's dancing beneath the starry sky. I kinda like the way she dips. She's my best friend's girl. She's my best friend's girl. But she used to be mine.
See, even with this very techno, I mean, it's not like techno today, but back in the day, this was kind of techno sounding. You've still got that little blues riff that he's doing there, right? Ding, 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 ding. It's still rock and roll, right?
It's like we always say, right? Come on, it's rock and roll.
Yeah.
It has to go somewhere, somehow. If you're playing guitar, it has to go back to the roots.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. Keith Richards says it all the time. It's just, this is how you make music. If there's a guitar in there, that riff has been heard or seen or some way done before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can hear those electronic drums at the beginning, right? That doo 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 doo, that drum roll on those electronic drums has that whole, kind of techno or, I keep saying techno, but it wasn't really techno. It's kind of that, that robotic or, kind of synthesizer sound of the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Like, I was just thinking of like the Land Down Under,
Yeah, right. Yeah, Men at Work. Yeah,
Men at Work.
That's around the same time, right? Late
yeah,
70s.
it just popped into my head, that whole the drumming kind of thing. But yeah, I just realized, I just took a look. I'm sitting here, and man, oh man, this is an amazing album. You know what? Every song got tremendous. Every song on the album got tremendous airplay.
Well, yeah, these first three were mega hits. I mean, just crazy how popular they were.
Yeah.
So for My Best Friend's Girl, Rick Ocasek wrote this song and sang lead on the track. And, it's a story that has been told a million times before. Girlfriend left him and took up with his best friend. So, it's got these elements of the heartbreak songs of the 50s and 60s. Like the hand claps, right? That's a very kind of Motown-y, old school thing. But they put a modern spin on it, making the guy in the song a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more volatile. So the details he uses to describe her with her nuclear boots and drip dry glove are, that's a little different than what we usually hear in these kind of songs, right? So he's even painting a picture using the words that we're very kind of modern and up to date, right? And it's, so they're really kind of, I think that what happened is they fell into this and then they really said, okay, this is our thing. Now we're going to really push it. This whole, we're a new wave band kind of thing.
We are the Cars.
Yeah.
Right. It's so, I didn't realize, but they just got together in 76. So they really started to piece this together quickly. Really amazing.
Yeah. And I think they were playing a lot of, bars and stuff. And again, we talk about this all the time. That's how you got to get in those hours. And that's how you get good, is get out there and play. And, gives you a chance to get feedback from people too.
Back in those days. Yeah. I just see here, it says, Ocasek's songs were filled with irony and sarcasm.
Yes. Yeah. But that goes back to what you said before about like kind of, he's a little grumpy, right? He's a little crotchety for a young guy.
My wife would say, snarky.
Snarky, yeah, sure.
She tells me I'm being snarky. I got to watch out.
So this one was the second single from the album, following Just What I Needed. And like most of the early songs, Rick Ocasek wrote the song and then made the demo at his home studio. And when they signed with the record company, they recorded the songs with the producer, Roy Thomas Baker. And get this, Roy Thomas Baker produced Queen. So there's your connection, Tommy boy.
See that?
Good ear.
Look at that. That's funny, right? It just hit me that, with the harmonies and
right.
That makes sense.
So that's where, and maybe he's hearing Queen and that's why he's layering the vocals so much,
Hey, listen, if you back in those days, if you wanted to be a money-making machine, you can stay true to your roots or you can put out music,
Sure.
It's like the conflict that people always had back in the day, And a lot of people, well, this is extraordinary because it's not just a one and done pop hit.
Right.
It's more than that.
After recording this song, Cars guitarist Elliot Easton realized that he had subconsciously borrowed the riff from the Beatles song I Will.
Wow.
So now what I want you to do is listen to this and go listen to I Will by the Beatles.
Yeah. But you think about it, right? How many, we were just saying, there's only so many things to play.
Right. There's only so many notes.
And in your subconscious, you probably loved that song and played it or learned it when he was a kid, right? And then all of a sudden, you're out there and you're playing it. You don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't even consider that stealing, especially if it's subconscious.
No, and it's different. It's a lot faster. I think he said it was subconscious, so I think he just
Yeah,
it was something he probably played in the past.
and it fit.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, let's dive into track number 3. This one is another huge hit for the Cars. This is called Just What I Needed.
Huge.
Huge.
I don't mind you coming here, wasting all my time. 'Cause when you're standing oh so near, I kinda lose my mind. It's not the perfume that you wear, it's not the ribbons in your hair. And I don't mind you coming here and wasting all my time. I don't mind you hanging out.
So on this one, what really kind of catches my ear on this song is the kind of the comparison between the keyboard and that guitar, right? So they got that techie, that kind of new wavy, very 80s keyboard sound.
Yeah,
And then
probably.
that guitar comes in and it's got a little bit of distortion on it, right? It's a little bit of rock and roll back into the song.
Oh yeah, and this one's sung by Benjamin Orr. I think he's just got a tremendous voice, man.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
yeah. He actually wrote this song when he was living in a commune in Newton, Massachusetts.
I haven't heard the word commune in a while, but I remember what they were.
Well, but you have to keep kind of take that with a grain of salt because he also said once that all written words are fiction. So who the fuck knows?
All written words are fiction.
Yeah.
All right.
So they're a little weird, the Cars.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing too. A little eccentric.
Yeah.
And I really don't remember where they met, or I always thought they were either classically trained musicians or like really,
Oh, I
really
don't know.
like
I know they were in Boston. Like that was where they all kind of got together. They
Yeah.
were in the club scene in Boston.
but their background as musicians was like they're tremendous musicians.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't have that here as a actual thing. So
Well, there's an edit. All
Yeah.
right. Whatever we don't know, you'll never know.
well, if you have something that says that, I have notes.
There you go.
So Just What I Needed established the Cars as one of New Wave's leading hitmakers and helped them get the deal with Elektra Records. They recorded a 2-track demo of the song that their manager brought to 2 popular radio stations, WBCN and WCOZ. I know BCN, I don't know COZ. That ploy rarely works, but the group had built a following in the area, and the song was very radio friendly. So both stations played it. Listeners loved it, and on WBCN, it became the most requested song by a local band in the history of the station. That kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if those stations exist anymore, but I know BCN was a huge rock radio station for a long time.
Oh, dude, we listen. Up there, Boston and all the areas we had at WNEW, right? Oh my God,
Yeah.
that was the only place to go, man. It was the greatest,
Yeah.
the greatest. We take it for granted what kind of music they were pumping out, but it
Right.
was the only place for us to get it besides buying an album.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, as you said before, there is some split duties on the Cars songs, and
Yeah.
Rick Ocasek didn't have any kind of problem at all having Ben Orr sing songs. So it wasn't like a whole thing to him. So when that happened, he was fine with it. So that was good. Didn't cause any stress or strife in the band.
Yeah, it's always interesting, but the voice has to fit the song, and that song it fits.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, let's jump into number 4, and this one is called "I'm in Touch with Your World."
You can tuck it on the inside. You can throw it on the floor. You can wave it on the outside, like you never did before. You can just hit the match.
This is just so wacky. This is the one song I really am not that into on
Yeah.
this album.
And what did you hear there that brings it into the realm of why everybody was around, kind of doing the same stuff? There was a little Devo in there.
A little bit. It was a lot closer to Devo than
Oh,
not.
yeah.
You know, it was very
yeah.
kind of mechanical, robotic. Robotic is kind of the term I'm looking for. Robotic, right? And there's a lot of weird sound effects in this song.
Yeah, one of those things.
Yeah, there's a slide whistle.
Slide whistle.
Yeah, Greg
Sounded like a
Hawkes.
steel guitar in there a little bit too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think they were just going for really the weirdest things they could find. So,
Right.
Greg Hawkes said that was one of his favorites to play live.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a line in there that says everything is science fiction, and that was a result of Hawkes mishearing Okasik's original lyric was everything you say is fiction. So here we are back to everything is fiction. So that's that's why they have that spacey sound effect after the line, because they thought it was everything is science fiction.
Nice.
So, Rick Ocasek, wrote the lyrics, but then changed it to accommodate the song because he thought it sounded good that way.
Hey, it's on the album.
Yeah.
Wow.
And James Welton, who was the author of 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die, said that the song employs a variety of sound effects that would be at home in a Looney Tunes cartoon.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it's like
like,
Looney
hey.
Tunes.
Hey, I don't know. You know what? It's an interesting time right here. That this is really was the 78, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. A really good point.
Transitions are starting to happen. People trying to find their way, not be the classic rock guys, the Beatles, the Creams, the Claptons,
Right.
and how are we going to find ourselves and change that?
And you've got so much of that, you got Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, Jackson Browne, all that Southern California mellow rock,
Yeah.
right? So, you're right. It's just them coming together as young guys and trying to do something different.
Something different. Yeah. Well, it was that time. I could see it. You had Aerosmith right in the heart of this, kicking ass out there.
Right.
Jay Giles band kicking ass right there. Let's talk about some Boston bands. There you go.
Yeah,
right
but
there, right?
straight ahead rock bands,
Straight ahead rock, yeah.
there's nothing unusual about those
Nope.
bands at all.
No. Well,
Well, there's other things, but we'll talk about those.
they're a
for
little
now.
unusual, but their music wasn't.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, let's jump into track number 5. I kind of like I don't kind of I really like this one. This one's called "Don't You Stop."
Great song, man.
Yeah.
But who let the boat inside of you? makes no, it's just what I like. So do that I like. Don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop. If it makes you feel good. Don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop, don't you stop.
See, now that part to me, it's a little circusy, right? It sounds like the what do they call it? The calliope. A little bit, right? But the first part is pretty rock and roll. I mean, they've done a lot of weird stuff to it. They got like a chorus or flanger or something, some kind of effect at the beginning there. But if you played that song on a acoustic guitar, it still would hold up. It's still a good song, right?
Yeah, they just kept filling it. As I said to you earlier, live, these songs were very get up and dance kind of music. You can see it. If that was on American Bandstand, that's what they would say. Yeah, it's got a good beat and I can dance to it.
Yeah, right.
American Bandstand, anybody out there? Anybody?
Nobody. Sorry.
Nobody? Anybody? American Bandstand? Dick Clark, anybody?
So Don't You Stop was on the album, but then got released as a B-side to My Best Friend's Girl in the US and Japan. And that single hit number 35 in America. In Europe, however, the song Moving in Stereo was used as the B-side for My Best Friend's Girl. So I don't know how they make those decisions. Like, why would you make a B-side one song in one country and another song in another country? I mean, what's up with that?
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe airplay for another song. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. That's just weird. But, that's why I don't make big money in the record biz.
But you're killing it in the podcast.
The podcasting biz. I'm not making any money here either.
You're killing it. Look at you. Look at you.
I'm a star. Anyway, so one of the Rolling Stone critics, Kit Rachlis, said in his review of the Cars that the songs bristle and in their harsher, more angular moments. So he really doesn't like that Devo type stuff.
Yeah.
Kit.
Thanks, Kit.
Kit. What kind of name is that? Come on.
I don't know. We're still talking about the Cars and nobody ever heard of Kit. It's got to tell you something.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to track number 6. This one is called You're All I've Got Tonight.
Killer.
Yeah, great song.
I don't care if you hurt me some more. I don't care if you even the score. Well, you can knock me and I don't care. Well, you can mock me, I don't care. You can rock me just about anywhere. It's all right. 'Cause you're all I've got tonight. You're all I've got tonight. You're all I've got tonight. I need you tonight. I need you tonight.
So on this song, I mean, it's very interesting to me because you forget how, like, the synthesizer really stands out on this. So, like, if you're not listening to, like, that kind of music for a while, you forget how much it really comes out of the background of everything, right?
Yeah. You know what? One of the things I always remembered, and I still to this day do, which is great, all the Queen albums used to say no synthesizers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
That was
too
their
funny.
way of saying that we produced this ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think slowly but surely they went to synthesizers. They must have.
I gotta imagine they had regular, keyboards and stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, this was written and sung by the band's frontman, Rick Ocasek, and keyboardist Greg Hawkes said of the song, Rick's got a knack for taking a common phrase like "You're all I've got tonight" and making a great song out of it. So he really was very good at putting together catchy songs and just based off super simple ideas.
It's literally what he did.
Yeah.
taking a phrase and building a song around it.
Yeah. And again, you hear that, that late 70s sound of, at the beginning, the drum beat's got like a flange or chorus or something on it. And then it comes in with the guitar. And those also have some, there's a lot of effects, right? A lot of stuff going on in here. But it all works together and creates tremendously good songs.
Great songs. And that's the whole, no matter what you think about it, what you liked at the time, with the punk and metal and, classic rock. These are great songs. They're on the radio, you leave them on. That's the way I always look at it, right? It's not a song. If any of these songs came on the radio, you'd listen.
Yeah, you're not turning the channel.
Yeah, it's very listenable.
Yeah.
Got that word out.
All right. And here's another huge hit, another great song.
Great
This
song.
one is track number 7. This is Bye Bye Love.
This is a
I can't do this way much longer, expecting to survive. With those hidden innuendos just waiting to arrive. It's such a wavy night, and you slip into insane. Let's get into rock and roll. I hear what you're playing. It's an orangey sky. Always it's some other guy. It's just a broken lullaby. Bye, bye love. Bye, bye love. Bye, bye love. Bye, bye love. Substitution, mass confusion.
The other thing you really hear here is the drums are very kind of almost like staccato, right? Ba-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun. There's a lot of that kind of action going on in the beat, which is interesting. And I think that adds to that, kind of that robotic type of Devo, new wavy sound.
One thing I realized as I listened to the album as we're going through it here, their songs all had a lead in. Right in the beginning, there's a lead into the song.
Yeah.
I guess it was like a habit in their songwriting that they had to have some. But this is one of those songs where he says I always thought they were saying it's just a fucking lullaby, right?
I think everybody thought that.
Yeah, for years. And then one day I looked and I realized the word broken. I had no idea.
See?
It's just a broken lullaby.
Just have a dirty, dirty mind, Tom.
Well, listen, I bet fucking lullaby sounds better, right? Lullaby?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not writing songs.
But it's also, again, we talked about this when we talked about Bad Company. This is a very simple, basic song. Even the riffs, like there's a little declining riff. It's very basic, 3 or 4 notes, right? And everything's very basic. Sometimes you get too crazy for your own good, I think, as a writer, a songwriter. You try to get too much stuff in there. And sometimes the basic stuff is the best.
Well, musically, when you think about it, when the Beatles wrote, right, sometimes they'd write the music and then they'd put the lyrics to it and they'd sit and jam and simply kept it simple. Yep.
Yeah. And this is another Benjamin Orr song, as is the next one, where he's singing. So he's singing on quite a few of these tunes, and he actually had their biggest song, which was Drive. That was a huge, huge hit in the 80s.
My God. Well, that's a great tune, man.
Yeah. So.
That's a great tune.
All right, let's jump into the next Benjamin Orr singing song, and that would be Moving in Stereo.
Classic. There's the lead in. Yeah.
Lots of effects.
That's their thing, the lead in, though, right?
But he follows it up with this great riff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Great tune.
Life's the same, I'm moving in stereo. Life's the same, except for my shoes. Life's the same, you're shaking like tremolo. Life's the same, it's all inside you.
It's funny what you hear when you really listen, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's so easy to blow up your problems. It's so easy to play up your breakdown. It's so easy to fly through a window. It's so easy to move with the sound.
So again, Benjamin Orr singing lead on this one, and you know, this is a prime example of them using all these different production techniques, whether it's pedals or effects or how they're mixing it or whatever, create this swirling sound, right? And you can hear it on both sides of the headphones, and they're trying to paint a picture of this of moving in stereo, what the song is, right?
Yeah. And you know, we haven't mentioned it, but Elliot Easton's a tremendous guitar player.
Yeah.
He really is. And you know, he gets a few leads here and there, but more or less just a lot of rhythm. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of soloing in this
Nope.
band, if any. Right?
Yeah,
I don't think there
on
is a
occasion.
solo.
I'm trying to think of it. I know there's a couple where he gets to throw in a few licks here and there.
Yeah. It's more like a little fill riffs and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
But this one was never really, it was never released as a single, but it was super popular on rock radio. And it was one that people said, hey, you got to listen to this through your headphones to hear the stereo.
Yeah. It was a good tune, though. I like it. Like I said, if it comes on, I leave it on.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's
Great
it's also one of the only songs that mentions the word tremolo in the actual song.
Ever?
Ever. Yeah.
That's
Google it.
Way to dig deep on that one, Don.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the effects are tremolo-like, right?
Yeah, I get it.
So a tremolo is like the whammy bar on a guitar. It's the thing that makes it go woo 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 woo. You know? Yeah.
Hey, it's a whammy bar.
Yeah. This one was written by Rick Ocasek and Greg Hawkes together, and it's one of the few songs that Hawkes received a songwriter credit on.
Yeah, we're gonna throw you a bone. Keep you in the band.
There you go.
Gotta do something.
All right, so we're here at the album closer. This is not a long album, only 9 songs. But this one is the closer, and it's called All Mixed Up.
The lead in. Every song.
Yeah, right?
She shadows me in the mirror. She never leaves on the light. And some things that I say to her, they just don't seem to bite. It's all mixed up. It's all mixed up. It's all mixed up. She tricks me into thinking I can't believe my eyes. I wait for her forever, mixed up. She said to leave it to me. Leave it to me. Everything will be alright. Be alright. She said to leave it to me. Leave it to me. Everything will be alright.
Yeah, and there you can hear a little saxophone that, and this is at the end of this song there's actually a sax solo that Hawks does, and so it was a chance for him to not play the keyboards but move away and do something with a different instrument. But it's the only sax on a Cars record.
Well, it's a terrific song. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Benjamin Orr sings it beautifully. He really does.
So that's the Cars by the Cars.
You know what? We always learn these little things as we go along. Did you know the whole album? I just saw it. 35 minutes.
Yeah,
It's album.
It's all 3 and 4 minute songs and 9 songs.
Yeah.
There's not the longest song on here is 4:46, which is Moving in Stereo.
It's kind of interesting. If they would have cut this, interesting thinking about it, right? Putting, 3 or 4 just songs on and then 3 or 4 hits.
Yeah.
But then again, they continued writing and wrote some great albums after this.
Yeah, and I would say there's only like 2 songs on here that I think are not like kind of I'm in touch with the world.
Right.
And maybe all mixed up. Everything else was pretty popular.
Very
right?
popular. Oh.
So that's like 7 out of 9. That's pretty good numbers.
And once this album came out, like I said, they played the Garden. So, they got out of a bar and, you're paying 20,000 people, 21,000 people. That's
yeah.
huge.
Oh, they played a ton of arena shows and did really, really well through the 80s.
Yeah. There's some great videos of them playing Live Aid, man. Very cool. Very cool.
I was actually at that show. Did I ever tell you that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
There's some great YouTube videos of them rocking at Live Aid. Great stuff. Yeah, what a great band. Glad we covered
great album. The Cars.
Everybody.
So thanks for listening, everybody. You can watch us on YouTube, listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever. It's Inside the Album with Don and Tommy, and we'll be back soon with a new album for your listening pleasure.
Yeah.